Hey guys, welcome back to TechSav Live, where I help you become more tech savvy. So today I'll be talking about RAM, which is short for Random Access Memory, but most people just refer to it as RAM, so that's the term I'll be using today. The reason I'm talking about RAM today is because often in the IT industry you'll hear the words storage and memory used interchangeably. However, that's technically incorrect because storage is where the computer stores all its long-term data. So any data that the computer needs to store even when it is completely turned off. I made a whole video about storage and the different types of storage and how it works, so I highly recommend you go check that one out. But RAM is where the computer stores all its short-term data, any data that needs to be accessed immediately, but data that doesn't need to be stored when the computer gets turned off. Now, in order to provide context for this video, I'm going to have to explain what latency is. So latency is the delay between a request for data and the actual data transfer happening. For example, when I press the letter T on my keyboard, latency is the delay between me clicking T and T actually showing up on my Word document or on my search bar. Now, there are more factors going into the different latencies between things happening, like internet speed, whether you're using wireless, the size of the file that needs to be transferred. However, today I'll just be using the example of two Chrome tabs that you have open, or a Chrome tab and a Word document that you have open, and swapping between those two. Now, in order to help you understand how fast RAM actually needs to be, I'll explain the different speeds of the different drives that are available. So for a hard drive, the latency is about 13 milliseconds, which might not sound like much, but if you were to use a hard drive in context of as RAM, when you click on a Chrome tab that is already open, it doesn't have to load it, it just has to swap screens. It would take a good second or two for that to happen because there's actually quite a lot of data that needs to be transferred. Now, the latency for an SSD is about 100 microseconds, which means it's about 100 times faster than a hard drive, but there would still be a noticeable delay between you clicking something on the keyboard or changing between the Chrome tabs and it actually happening on the screen. It won't be a huge delay, but it will be noticeable, and it will definitely have a huge impact on the usability and just how smooth the computer works in general. Now, for that very reason, that delay, engineers came up with volatile type of memory called RAM. So these have a latency of around 10 nanoseconds, which is about 1,000 times faster than an SSD. Now, this comes with some sacrifices, such as they can't be anywhere near as large as an SSD or an HDD, and they have to be a certain shape, and you can only have up to 4 of these in your computer. However, for their purpose, they are very, very efficient. Now, with that crazy fast speed in mind, these are used for storing any temporary data. So it helps your computer remember where you scrolled up to in your Chrome tab or what you've typed in your document that you haven't saved. So any unsaved documents will be in the RAM. That's why in modern computers, a swap between Chrome tabs or between a Word document and a Chrome tab is pretty much instant. As soon as you click it, all the images and text will be loaded without any noticeable delay. That's why RAM is an essential part of a computer. It might sound similar to storage, but it serves a very different and essential purpose. Now, this is called DDR4 RAM, which just means it's the 4th generation of dynamic RAM. I'll be explaining what that means in a later video, but basically, yeah, it's just the newest generation of RAM that's available on the market today. Now, where hard drives connect to the computer via a cable, the data actually has to go through a physical cable and then into the already pretty slow hard drive, which just calls for even more latency. RAM and SSD, but more importantly, RAM connects directly into the motherboard, and generally they connect via these long slots you see here. They have a much larger set of golden connectors than an SSD, so that much more data can be transferred much quicker. So you'll notice these RAM slots are in pairs. That's generally because computers prefer to use RAM in pairs of 2 or 4 because it's much more efficient to use 2 at the same time than to use them 1 at a time. You'll notice these slots are pretty close to where the CPU is, the processing unit, which I'll be explaining in a later video, but you'll notice they're pretty close to that in order to minimize the distance that the data has to travel between the RAM and the CPU in order to make the user experience very smooth and anything that you do happen pretty much instantly. Of course, some tasks like opening a program from scratch would take longer, but just changing screens is basically what RAM is in charge of, and that happens very quickly because of all the optimizations that are done to ensure there is minimum latency. Now you'll see there are 2 types of RAM on my desk. I have DDR4 DIMM RAM. DIMM stands for Dual Inline Memory Module, and then we have SODIMM RAM, which stands for Small Outline DIMM. This just means it's got all the same features and speed as standard DIMM. It just comes in a smaller package for it to fit. This is a laptop, so it comes in a smaller package so that it'll fit into the laptop better. And these connect in the same way, directly to the motherboard, very close to the CPU. And as you can see, a standard DIMM wouldn't work very well in a laptop. Now you might be wondering, how much RAM do you actually need in your computer? Well, most people, if you're just web browsing and opening Word documents and you only use your computer for very basic stuff, most people won't need more than 8 gigabytes of RAM. If your computer is at all like a workstation or you do some casual gaming on it, I would highly recommend using 16 gigabytes of RAM, especially if you're opening a lots of apps at the same time, and or if you're doing some light video editing or something. If you're doing high quality like 4K video editing or gaming or 3D rendering, I would suggest going up to 32 gigabytes. However, most people, as I said, won't ever need more than 16 gigabytes. You only need more RAM if your computer is using the full amount of RAM you've already got. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't hesitate to hit that red button below and stay tuned for the next one.